Hey everybody, I am Jim Coppinger, one of the founders and the technical principal here at ZenTek Consultants. And what I'm going to show you in today's video is a little practical application for how to track your material deliveries and your material costs using, and for today's example, I'm going to be using Microsoft Project, but really, this process will work whether you're in Primavera or any other type of construction scheduling system, right? Doesn't matter what it is. I just happen to have a project. It's what I use. All right, so I'm going to show you guys how this concept works, and this is kind of a companion video to what I just recently did in our From Chaos to Control, ZenTek Simplifies Construction Technology. It's a video series. We're doing a bunch of how-to questions, and the question that I was answering there was, how do I control and share changes to my delivery times and delivery costs with everybody on the project? So what I'm going to do is kind of take, and there will be a link, by the way, under the at the bottom of this video in the comments, a link to that video. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and watch that first, then come on back here. So in that video, I talked about using some roofing examples, all right, and really being able to go in and, we all have scheduling programs that we use, and like I said, it doesn't matter which one you're using. This concept will work anywhere. So I talked about breaking your categories down into really two primary sections. So here I'm going to use roofing as an example. And you see that what I've done is I've got two categories. I've got a materials category and an installation category. In the materials category, this is where I'm going to be tracking my materials, my material delivery dates, my material costs, right? And under installation is, if you can see, if I expand installation out, right, it's all of the steps of, installing flashing, pouring light wake, spreading stone, all of the actual practical application things that we're scheduling. All right, but the area that most people tend to miss is this materials section. Right? They just ignore it, and in that video I get into a lot more detail about how much people can really cause serious negative impacts on your critical path and your overall project completion by not tracking the materials and materials delivery dates and changes and updates here. All right, so let's get into this. So really what I've done here is I've got two very simple columns that I put in here. All right, I put in one for ordering my roofing materials, and you see I've set it for a 0 day. It's just a day. I need to call and order the materials. All right, and I've set a specific date for that. All right, and then I have another one. This is as simple as it gets for when the roofing materials are delivered. Okay, and I can put multiple if I want to track, multiple items, different materials and so on. All right, but you see, in this case, I'm just going to keep it real simple. I'm just going to show we're going to do some 220-pound shingling. All right, so here's my ordering roofing materials, and what I want you to see is I've tied the predecessor, right? I've connected these two. So as delays happen, which they always do for deliveries, right? We always know there's always some problem, some issue, things get tied out a few days. You see that right now this one is set for delivery. Right, I'm going to order it on the 2nd, right, and I've got a 5-day lead, right, going between when I order it to when they're actually going to deliver it, right? And they're tied together. So if I was sick on the 3rd, I didn't wind up not ordering until the 4th. You see that it just kind of pushes everything forward for me, and now delivery date moves back to the 10th. And when I've got this type of a scheduling structure that can be very easily shared out to the cloud, right, where everybody on the job has access and visibility into the schedule, right? Everybody knows, that's been delayed, right? So my 2-week look ahead, because tied to that, if you notice, all of my installation is tied to that, right? So the roofing material is delayed. So all of the other, the time and the date for the roofer to show up on site and start putting this stuff in is tied to the material delivery date. It's part of my CPM. All right, so it's a very simple concept, right, that we can go in and we can tie that together and keep everything linked and moving as changes happen. Right? And we can always go in and override if there's another date, right? If there was a longer delay than the 5 days, maybe they didn't deliver till the 18th. Not a problem. You see everything moves forward. See my schedule changes from when I ordered, and we see there was an extended delay. Sometimes you can push that cause back onto the supplier. Sometimes not. Right? But it gives you this functionality that we all need to be able to track all of our material deliveries. And another thing that is really important here, right, is the idea of not just being able to track when this material is delivered to the site and what our lead and lag times are here, right, but to also be able to track the costs and related information, like, linking to a purchase order or putting a PO number on this or linking back to the original estimate, right? All of these things are important, vital pieces of data that everybody needs to be kept aware of on the job. Right, so it's a very simple thing for me to go in here, and you see that right now what I've got going on here, right, is I've got my original baseline cost. This was the 18,000. This was the original estimate, right, that we did. And I threw in a number here. I said, hey, you know what? We had 1,235 square feet of roofing that we were going to do at $15 a square foot, and that's our $18,000 material cost. That's what we estimated when we did this 4 months ago. Right? But now I go in, I order it, right? I've got my cost table here, right? So the cost has gone up. There have been some tariffs added, and there are some other shipping charges that get added in. So, the overall cost went up from 15 to 22, okay? All right, so it's a very easy thing for me to go into my resources here and say, here's the 220 pound shingles. I can just open that up, and you see that my cost was originally that 15. I just need to change that to 22, right? And again, a slightly different process maybe in the system you're using, but the overall process is very, very simple. All right, and you can see that it doesn't change my baseline estimate cost. I know we originally estimated 18, right? But now what I can do is I can go in and I can begin to modify things like the quantity, the units, right? So, we originally estimated 1235, but you know what? The manufacturer or the supplier won't deliver in 1235. They only go in even units, right? So I had to put in, right, 1,300, right, in there. And I can now just go ahead and say, okay, I delivered 1,300 at that $22. Ooh, okay, well, you can see right away, there's the actual cost. It went up to 28,600, because that's the reality of dealing with a construction project, right? But now I've got a justification, right? And I can go in and I can add notes to this. Why did it go up? I can explain what that is very easily just by going in and, hey, I need to add some notes in here, and I can explain, right, exactly what happened, right? So that's great. The other thing that I can do is I can go in and I can also start to track and create this. See, I just created a custom column, something that's very simple to do in any of these scheduling softwares. And I can go in and I can tie, hey, what's the actual purchase order number? Right? So I can just go in on that and I can go to the custom field and say, hey, there's the purchase order. Right? And I can just change that 0 and say it was purchase order, whatever. That's the purchase order number. There it is. Now I know exactly what the PO number is. Okay, it's all tied here in the schedule. Everybody can verify and check, right? Your accounting department can look at that and see what's what. I can also go in and I can easily link, right, to any of these, right? So I've already put in a hyperlink here, right, to a file, but I can easily go in and edit that link. You can see I'm just tying it to a file, but I can easily put in links, right, whether it's to the actual ordering page, delivery page, right, the cost page, the installation page, whatever I want on the web, or in this case, I have it tied to a simple Excel file, which is like, the original estimate, just a random Excel file I had on my machine. All right, but you see that I can easily tie into that with no problem and see, what the costs are, what were my original order dates, right? What was working, what didn't, where did we go off? Right? And this type of a structure is very, very easy to use because you can take essentially this material structure, right, and just copy it. And I'd have materials under my windows, materials under the finishes, elevators, plumbing, electrical, right? And I could have all of those different setups and materials, and I can easily go back into the resources here, right? And if I want to, edit the shingling and I want to start to put in sub items for, fasteners, and I need to put in for nails, and I need to put in for underlayment, and I've got to put in, I can add all of those costs in here as line item structures. And again, I'm kind of getting a little bit into, using Microsoft Project, but this concept, these processes are the same, right, on every one of your scheduling systems at some level. And that's where, like here at ZenTek, we do a lot of work with folks in helping them develop these as standard templates where, when you open up and start a new type of job, all the materials, the installation subfolders, this is all built. So it's all automated. And all you have to do is go in and add dates and import costs from your estimate, and then let your project managers just add the changes, the delivery dates, and the actual delivery prices and POs in real time, and it keeps everybody on the job up to date. You don't have people showing up on site when there's no materials there and then pulling off and saying, hey, I'll be back in 4 months, right? Well, okay, I mean, my concrete guy is now not going to be here for 4 months. While that certainly impacted the whole job, right? That's the kind of stuff that you really need to pay attention to and make use of the scheduling software that you guys already have to simplify this and keep everybody in the loop. All right, there's your practical example for today. Catch you next time, guys.